Too Stupid to Live, a comedy podcast that reviews romance novels $5 and under, is exquisite, intense, and twice a month. Hosted by writer-performer Becky Feldman, the show's vigorous and attentive guests send waves of insight and hilarity in every episode. The Too Stupid to Live podcast makes sure the listener is satisfied first, especially when they do that thing with their show where there are special episodes with author interviews. Too Stupid to Live can come to you. That is, it's available wherever you listen to podcasts. Or you can explore tstlpodcast.com. And here's to a happily ever after.
Welcome to Ready to be Romanced. I'm Torry.
And I'm Hannah.
And today we're discussing
people we meet on vacation.
Nailed it.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here. I feel like I'm on vacation right now.
No, seriously, thanks for being here, Hannah. Can you tell the listeners about your podcast and about your TikTok?
Oh my gosh, Torry, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Yes, I'm Hannah Brown, not from The Bachelorette, not to be confused. I am a content creator on TikTok. My handle is at Hannah A. Brown 0. I fancy myself a hot girl anthropologist, and I dive into all things hot girl culture and whatever else is on my mind. And I also co-host a Gossip Girl podcast called You Know You Love Us. I co-host that with my dear friend Tyler Meredith, and we recap Gossip Girl and kind of snark on it in the process, and it's very fun. And we're currently on break, but we will be back, so stay tuned and binge old episodes in the meantime.
Totally. I think your hot girl anthropologist thing, like, not to like pump your tires, but it's probably like my favorite content right now on TikTok.
Oh my god, Torry, that's so nice, because there's a lot of great content on TikTok.
No, I'm TikTok addicted, like, since the pandemic, just like every day 3 hours or whatever. But like, yeah. I think like my little sister and I talk about this all the time, about like, just like, you know, we want to look put together. We want to look like, yeah, like we know what we're doing. We want to look cool, chic, like all of these things. But we just like we don't have that je ne sais quoi. And it's like
so annoying, right?
It's so annoying. It's like we bought the Aritzia like blazer or whatever. We like bought the 501s and stuff like that. But there's just something like missing about it. And it's like it's not a body thing. It's not a like we think we're ugly thing. There's just something that the effortlessness of a lot of chic women evades us. And
totally,
I find so much comfort in your quest to be a hot girl.
That is so fucking nice. You just made my whole day. I had a friend, like, after it started becoming more of a series, he was like, this is so great because this is so you. In that, like, I'm someone who's like, of course I want to be hot and cool. Who among us doesn't want to be hot and cool? If you say you don't, you're a liar.
Yeah,
and totally. I would rather just cut the shit and ask the hot girls what they're doing, because my whole life, since I was a tiny child, I've never felt like I've gotten it right, so to speak. And yes, there's like a school of thought where people are like, you should just be yourself. Why do you want to look like everybody else? And I'm like, shut the fuck up.
I just want to look like everybody else.
I want to look hot and stylish. Yes, correct. That would be fun for me. So like, let me fucking live. So that's so nice. So I'm glad it resonates. And I think like, and I think there's a lot of people on TikTok, and more power to them, that like position themselves as like an expert on things. And the second I realized I wasn't an expert on anything, I was like, maybe that's my niche, is just that I'm not an expert, and we can figure it out together, you know?
I just like how you break it all down. You're like, this is what I've got going on. Like, what should I change or update or whatever? Or you're like, this is what I tried and I don't think it worked. Like, what should I change? Like, that is Because it's like that's the conversations we're all having when we're getting
With
dressed.
ourselves.
Yeah.
My sister and I always talk about the head tilty thing, which like I realize this
You're
isn't like it's not a visual medium for the most part, but yeah, we do this head tilty thing where you like raise your shoulder and you put your ear to your shoulder and you're like, huh.
Yeah.
And it's like if you do the head tilty thing, you can't leave the house in that. Like something with the outfit is off. Something has to be re-examined. And thank you so much. That's so fucking nice.
Yeah, it's so good because I feel like I am doing that, but I'm not the one crowdsourcing, but I'm trying to be a hot girl anthropologist.
No, literally, we're all in it together, babe. And
Totally.
I love it. It really feels like a high Barbie vibe in the comments. Usually, you know, every now and then there's some a-hole that's like, you're ugly. I'm like, no, you're ugly. Like spiritually.
Yeah. That's so funny. Okay, let's talk about reading. Have you always been a reader?
No.
Okay, because I saw you were reading ACOTAR and I was like, come on my podcast.
Oh my gosh, I know. I'm so honored. Well, I got bullied into reading ACOTAR by one of my best friends.
Same.
Shout out to Clayton. Seriously, the ACOTAR audience, they're like a dog with a bone. They're like, once you read the book, you'll be forever changed. And I'm like, oh.
Do you feel forever changed? Like you finished the second one, right?
I have like 100 pages left. I've really been slogging through it. And I feel this guilt because so many people love Akamath, which is why I haven't listened to your Akamath episode because I was like, I'm scared about spoilers.
Yeah, totally.
But I don't feel forever changed, but I will say I love to feel like I'm on the inside of a joke. I hate feeling left out. That's one of my biggest triggers, not to trauma dump on you and your listeners. So I like having read it because I feel like included. And I like all the memes that come from the ACOTAR fandom.
Same. Yeah. I do like just being a part of the group. As,
Yeah.
With the hot girl stuff, with the ACOTAR stuff, like, yeah, there's a trend for sure. Yeah. Am I forever changed? No, by that book, but I do think about it like quite a bit.
Yes.
Is romance your like main genre of reading?
It is. So actually, the thing that got me into reading, this is so embarrassing, Torry. I had someone lend me It Ends With Us, and they said, don't look anything up, just go in blind. And I was like, ooh, okay. And I was like, this book is a piece of shit. This is the most terribly written book I've ever read in my life. Yeah. And then I got to the plot twist, and I was like, oh no, my God. I didn't know
obsessed? No.
I was obsessed. I couldn't put it down. I flipped the page back and forth like 50 times being like, he just what?
Yeah.
What? And it sucks. Like, I just think even though Colleen Hoover, like, I don't know that I would call her like the best writer per se.
Yeah.
But I will say the thing that's really, I think, well done with that book is you feel the emotions of someone who falls in love with an abuser and then ends up getting abused. And I just thought that emotional journey as a reader, not knowing it was coming, was really palpable and insane to me. And it like stuck with me for a while.
Yeah,
and then I read It Begins With Us, or It Starts With Us. And that sucked because who's into Atlas? Literally no one.
That's
like I'm like
funny.
no, Ryle is a piece of shit, but pre-abuse Ryle, I was obsessed with him. I was like, I love him, and that's it. She knew what she was doing.
Totally. Are you excited for the movie?
No. I'm so angry at the movie, and I literally like. First of all, how do you make Blake Lively look ugly?
No, Blake Lively and Jason Baldoni. I was like, with their fucking
they did them dirty
animal onesies. I was just like,
how that's Serena Vanderwoodson. How fucking dare you? And they're like, she's supposed to be a redhead in the book. I'm like, she's also supposed to be 23 in the book. Like, she doesn't have to be a redhead. Or there's like a more flattering shade of red you could have given her. What the fuck are the clothes? Why is she wearing 2 pairs of pants? Why are they both in their 40s? I think Gavin Leatherwood should have played Ryle Kincaid, and I will. And I also think he should play Rhysand in ACOTAR.
Yeah.
I just think Gavin Leatherwood should be everything. Put him in everything. Oh my God.
No, truly. No,
I saw Sex Lives of College Girls, and I was like, that's the most beautiful man I've ever seen. So anytime I'm reading a romance novel and they're like, he was ridiculously gorgeous, I'm like, Gavin Leatherwood, I'm putting you in.
Yeah, like tall,
Coach
dark,
is
and
putting
handsome.
you in.
You're like, that's him. Yeah, that's so true.
Wait, who did you cast as? Do you cast actors when you read?
I actually don't, because I was going to ask ask you about this, and I know we're kind of getting into it. Maybe we can save this for later, but like this is becoming a movie, and I don't know who I would cast for either of these people. I kind of actually think, we can talk about it when we get into like our roundtable discussion, because the internet has cast someone, and I actually think for Poppy, and I actually think it's like a really good.
Oh, I'm excited.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into it. We're going to be talking about people we meet on vacation. So spoilers ahead. So this book is written by Emily Henry, and it was published May 11th, 2021. So it's a pretty new book. I think you can feel the 2021 vibes. And it's a book that it's one person's POV. It's Poppy writes, but it goes in between the past and the present. So you got to pay attention because otherwise you can get a little mixed up.
I listened to this on audiobook for part of it, and I was like, I had to be like, hold on, wait, what summer is this? Because like I just visually, I felt like it was easier to keep track of, but audio wise, if I was like doing something else, I was like, oh shit, where in time are we?
Because it's like 12 years ago, and then they go like 11 years, 10 years, like 9. So it's a lot to catch up with. But yeah, so the book opens, and it's the main character, Poppy, and she's on vacation with her best friend Alex Nilsson, and she is a journalist, like a travel journalist, and he is a high school literature teacher, and he was recently dumped, but they have this like cute scene at a bar. They're on Sanibel Island, which is in Florida. She's just kind of saying how like happy she is and how much she loves traveling and being with her best friend. And she likes traveling because she can be whoever she wants to be, meet new people, and have life-altering experiences. Are you a big travel girly?
If I had the bank account, I would be.
I know. I'm like in my head for sure. Like,
in my head, every summer, like I get so seasonally depressed because I see all the rich people like going to Europe and like doing all this traveling, and my travel is mostly like home to Chicago or to my fiance's home in Kansas, and then back to LA, and it's just like Chicago, Kansas, LA, and I'm like, I do want to fucking go somewhere else sometimes. So must be nice, Poppy. I will say Poppy grated on me. We'll get into it later, but I'm like, oh, do you just travel all the time with your hot best friend who's obsessed with you? Oh, do you have such a nice time?
Are you like, I know, I was like, are you just gonna date every photographer that comes on the trip with you, taking like really nice pictures? Like
literally. Give me a break. Big whoop.
So the book starts in present day. She has her dream job. She's living in New York. She's doing the thing, but she feels like she's not happy, and she is kind of burnt out from her job. She's like, when was the last time I was happy? And she realizes it was with Alex, her best friend, who they had a falling out. They haven't talked for years, so she decides to like cold text message him. a bold move. And we get flashbacks of Poppy and Alex meeting. They met at college orientation at the University of Chicago. They didn't really see each other through their first year of college, but they reconnect because they actually live in like the same city, and a mutual friend of theirs suggests that they road trip home after their first year of college. And like, let me tell you, I've watched Harry Met Sally once in my life. I know it's I should have probably watched it more in my life, but like,
I'm not going to bully you for it. Yeah. Live your life.
But like, it's a classic. Like,
yeah.
And the way that this just is that movie, like right off the bat, I was like, because like them carpooling home is the start of When Harry Met Sally, and it's so iconic, so it's so drilled into your head that when you hear about this, it's just like okay, we're here. Yeah.
I feel like a dumbass because I read this book and got to the end, and in the very end of the book there's this little like afterword by Emily Henry where she's like, I didn't mean to write an homage to When Harry Met Sally, but it is my favorite movie. And I was like, no shit, this whole book is a case for why men and women can't just be friends.
Yes, totally. Like it's clear as day. It's like how I didn't realize that Akatar was Beauty and the Beast.
I know.
I'm so dumb. Like
no.
It's so brutal.
You know who's dumb? Feyre, because she didn't know that riddle and literally the riddle was pretty easy.
No, totally. So we learn more about Poppy and Alex. Alex is really quiet and he's like reserved. He's super studious. And Poppy is like sporadic, easygoing, free-spirited. So you say that Poppy got on your nerves. I think like these characters just in general, when it's like, I think actually friends to lovers is like a way harder pitch than enemies to lovers.
I love enemies to lover. That's like my kink. Yeah.
Totally. And this just like, sometimes you're just like, you just want to like shake them because you're just like, duh, you're obsessed with each other like the entire time. And if you just said something, you could be together.
And I'm like, you're telling me, okay, that like Poppy is cute, Alex is hot, even though she keeps talking about how like his hot, like pale, shirtless body. And I was like, I've never seen a pale, shirtless man and been like, ooh, you're really turning me on. But like, whatever, to each their own, I guess. But like, they're both hot and they've gone on a million vacations together and they met in college and they didn't so much as kiss until Croatia. BFFR.
No, I know.
They would have fucked like literally by junior year.
Totally. Even their parents think that they're fucking.
Yeah, they're like here's some condoms, like get into it.
And they're going, also this is the other thing, is they're going on vacations together, pretending that they're newlyweds. Like, I don't know.
Come on.
It seems so unrealistic that they wouldn't have done anything, or they were like so opposed to it.
Yeah.
So this was also weird. Not to shit on this book already, but like Alex like randomly starts texting her again because again, we're in present day. The conversation has ended and he reaches out this time and she's like, we should go on a summer trip. And he's like, well, like turns out my brother is getting married in Palm Springs. Like, do you want to come? And I just think it's like, would you pick up the phone first or do you just go on the vacation without talking?
I would probably pick up the phone and maybe clear the air. Also, I have questions about who the fuck has a summer wedding in Palm Springs when it's at least 110 degrees every single day.
Totally.
I'm like, what?
I know. That was so weird because the whole middle chunk of the book is how they're dying of heat stroke.
Literally. And they're like, and then David's like, oh yeah, my fiance, he's just like super over the top. And I'm like, so over the top that he didn't think to like go to somewhere that actually has pleasant weather in the summer. Like, I call BS. Totally. It's like they're gay, so they get married in Palm Springs. It's like, no, I don't think that would have happened.
No, totally. It was like so random.
Yeah.
Because she at first is like, yeah, I'm like trying to make my annual rest and relaxation, which is the magazine she works for, like trip work. And she's like pitching all these things to her boss, but she's like, hey, I'll meld, like I can just do this Palm Springs trip and also do the R&R trip. But the boss is like, no, that's not going to work because, yeah, she's like, Palm Springs in August or whatever. Like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
And so she's like, hey, I'll just take it as like a straight up vacation. But she doesn't tell Alex that. So she's like, yeah, I'll come on the trip because I can write piece on it. But we're going to do it like shoestring budget. And he's like, yeah, that's fine. Because she's actually paying for it all. So they get to Palm Springs and it's like awkward for sure. But she's like, oh my God, he's like even hotter than before. And like, I didn't realize like how cut he was and like all of this stuff.
So sexy.
Yeah. This is the other piece of this book that I didn't get is that like he's supposed to be like a nerdy loser, but he's also like super hot and ripped. And then like he's supposed to be quiet, but then he like hooks up with a bunch of girls. Like the two of the things like don't make sense.
I know. And then like, yeah, he's hot enough that he's hooked up with other girls and he dated Sarah Torval and Sarah Torval was like extremely jealous of Poppy because justice for Sarah Torval, but we'll get there later.
Literally.
Justice for Sarah Torval. But then it's like, yeah, like he never would have made a move before Croatia. Again, like who is this man?
No, totally. If he's hooked up with other girls, it doesn't make sense. So it flashes back to 10 summers ago and they go to Vancouver Island and I was texting you about this because it's like, this is where I live and it's so important to me and it's like no one comes here except for Pamela Anderson lives here. Like,
I know. I want to go.
Yes, please come. It's so beautiful. They go to Vancouver, they go to Victoria where I live, and Tofino, and they like reference Nanoose Bay, which is literally like, I don't even think it'd be considered a town. It's like a drive by, like 10 houses or something like that. And I was just like living, because I didn't know that this was gonna happen, and just I feel like Canadians, like, even though it's like Canada is like a, you know, it's a popular country, it's a big country, every time we get mentioned in anything, we're just like dying, I feel like.
Totally. No, I felt that way later in the book. She mentions Normal, Illinois, which is where I went to college, and it's like a small town. And I literally was like, ISU forever. And I'm just like, yeah, like, I'm like, Emily Henry, like, you are one well-researched lady.
I will say she did a lot of research, and it was like really accurate, and I was like really impressed by that. And the detail was like, it was a good amount of detail about the locations.
Totally. I really believed that Poppy like was a very well-traveled person who had like had a grip on all these different places she had been, and like down to like where they went to in those places, like bars and restaurants and stuff. I really liked the picture that Emily Henry painted with all that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we just like learn throughout these flashbacks that she loves traveling. She doesn't want to settle down. She wants to see the world. And Alex is like, I want to get married. I want to have kids. I want to own a house. And like, I'm okay having like kind of the small town traditional life, where she wants something like greater than that.
Mm-hmm. Classic.
So classic, totally. Again, we flash back to present day. They get to their cheap motel that she booked, and there's only one bed in the room.
I hate when it happens.
No, kid, literally. Has this ever happened to you?
No,
like,
I don't have straight guy friends. So no, like even before I was with my fiance, Jake, I never had straight guy friends because I was always in love with them and was just like biding my time until they realized they were in love with me back. Or like the one time it was the other way around, like it ended up getting weird. And now all my guy friends are gay.
Yeah, I get
or like
that.
related to me. You know what I mean?
Totally. I don't know. I am a sucker for, it's like at the time when I'm reading and I hear that there's a one bed, I'm like fist pumping.
Yes.
But then when I analyze it like the day after or whatever, or when I'm writing out the little outline for these podcast episodes, I'm like, fuck, this is like so cheesy. But like you just gotta roll
I love
with
it. Like that's why we're gathered here today. You know what I mean? Like that's I don't read these books for like realism. I read them because I want to see people who should have probably already fucked share a bed in a motel room where there's no AC.
Yeah, the trip basically is a disaster. There's one bed, so Alex is like sleeping on a chair. The pool is full of people. There's construction, and the AC isn't working, and they're in Palm Springs in the middle of the summer.
Hell.
Yeah, it's so bad. So she's like trying to get deets about Sarah Torval and Alex. She finds out like that they work at the same school, but they're like not together, and they haven't been together since the Croatia trip. But she's like basically like, oh, you should like definitely try to get back together with her. Like,
this is why Poppy's annoying. I'm like, just like think before you talk like one time. Also the fact that like she just wears like quirky outfits. Like she wears like loud, like lime green bell bottoms with like a purple top. And she, you know, like I'm just like, why?
No, she's like, in that sense, so pick me. Like
exactly. She's just like peak like manic pixie dream girl vibes. And it like grates on me so bad. And actually like her friend Rachel in New York, who's like earlier in the book and then there at the end, I'm like, I want to play Rachel in the film adaptation, even though usually when I read a romance novel, I'm picturing myself as the lead because like that's part of the fun. And again, if like people don't do that, I'm just like, why not?
Why you're
like,
why?
Why are you here? Like I have questions. I don't watch porn. I read romance novels. Yes. But like, yeah, I'm like Rachel was like awesome and seemed cool and like normal, and Poppy's like, I have the flu and I don't know what to do, and I'm like, you are like, 30.
I don't know how to go to the doctor.
Get a fucking grip. Like enough.
No, I know.
I want to slap her and be like, Poppy, enough.
No, me too. I know Rachel. So Rachel is the first person, like she's her influencer friend in New York, but she's like the first person to be like, I don't think you're like super happy. When was the last time you're happy and stuff? And this like not pseudo therapy, but just like the peer support of it all.
Yeah.
And, like, you're a good friend, and like you have like a good head on your shoulders.
Totally.
We see them go to Nashville. Yeah, they're, as we mentioned before, Poppy's parents think that they're having sex, so they like pack him up with like a XL box of condoms. And she's currently like planning on dropping out of college, which I think she does later on because her like blog is successful. I was also like a blog in 2021, girly pop. Like,
it's so true. It's like maybe in 2011, like in like the Julie and Julia era, like this could have worked.
And she talks, this was another thing that I didn't get, because again, the whole time she's talking about how she is a virgin and like kind of prudish, and he's like hooking up with girls. Like, he works at a library and he's hooking up with girls that work there, or a girl, singular. This is what I also didn't get about their relationship, because you would assume that the like quiet, studious one was like the more like prudish person, and then
your
like,
notes are killing me. Can I read it? Can I do a dramatic reading? I'm looking at this outline, listeners, and Torry wrote, "Okay, what? LOL. I thought he was a prude loser."
No, but that's what I thought.
No, it's true. It is like such a stereotype that he's like, I don't have time for girls. I'm reading my books.
Yeah.
And Poppy would be the one that's like, I drank a Four Loko and like fucked a football player.
Totally. Like, she's the one that's like putting herself out there. I feel like also, not to equate the two, because they really have nothing in common, but like when you are like well-traveled or like studious, I feel like it's like when you're studious, you don't have opportunities to hook up with people. When you're well-traveled, you have like tons of opportunities because you're meeting so many people.
That's so true. And like truly like feral vacation hookups are I've had them and I've pretty much regretted every single one, but like it's always a good story later on, and that's worth it.
It's like, it's totally like low risk, high risk, low reward.
You're like, I got a souvenir on my trip. It was an STD.
Yeah. And also I feel like shit.
Yeah, I feel like ass. But like something about like going back to your hotel room that you're sharing with your friends, and you're like kind of hungover, and you're like, oh my God, you guys. And then you like go to brunch and you like debrief, like, and you're like, I'm never going to see that man again. It is a high that I can't even describe.
Oh, totally, totally. Back in Palm Springs, Poppy takes the bed and Alex sleeps on the armchair that's in the room. And in the middle of the night, he has like a full back spasm. I don't know why I'm laughing. I was so confused because she's talking about how fit he is. And I guess like fit doesn't always equate. I don't know why I'm equating everything. Like, it doesn't equal like health for some reason, but he's like so unwell on this trip, and it's I don't know, it's not hot.
No, it's like the thing about Alex is like at the end he's supposed to be this like sexy Casanova, but like the entire book leading up to like the end, he gave me the ick.
No, literally, I was like, ew, you're like back spasm. Even though like I had like a calf spasm like last week, like it happens to the best of us, but I was like, ew, like you should get that checked out.
I know, and part of me wonders if like the reason Alex gave me the ick was like, again, like I think I realized through this book that like I cannot listen to most books on audiobooks, but especially not romance novels, because the woman who was reading it, bless her heart, she's a great reader, but she like dropped into like this man voice for Alex, and I was like, ew, and like I didn't think it was hot. So between that and the back spasm, I was like, this is just pulling me out of it. Like I can't.
Totally. I only will listen to an audiobook with romance if it's a full cast.
Yes.
Yes. Like that's how I listened to ACOTAR and whatever, the second one.
Yeah.
The second time I read them for the podcast was like the theatrical full cast release, and it's so good because it has music and like other sound effects too.
Cool.
Which is really cool, but then it's like every guy isn't just played by the girl too. Like,
I'm just like, it's not turning me on to hear this lady like talk like in a man voice, and then Alex is like, oh, my back spasm, oh, puppy. I'm like,
I'm dead. No, I feel that. I really, really feel that. We get more flashbacks of them traveling. They go to San Francisco. She dates other guys during this time, but they remain friends. And she always, like, again, likes the guy, but it's like no one holds a candle to Alex.
Mm-hmm.
In Palm Springs, she's taking care of him. She's kind of like poking and prodding about Sarah because, again, she's like weirdly like trying to kind of get them back together. This is like kind of one of the breaking points where Alex is like, okay, like, I know you don't want marriage or kids or to like grow old with a singular person, but like that's what I want. And you're like kind of shitting on what I want out of my life. And
Fair.
Yeah, which is like so fair because like either way is just as valid. And Poppy for the first time is like, oh my God, like I'm doing that.
Yeah, she's like, whoa, I'm like kind of an asshole, sorry.
Yeah. She's like, as much as you guys should just like get back together or whatever, because I'm like a sadist or whatever, she's like, I also don't want you to because she hates me. And it's like, no fucking shit.
If I were Sarah, I would have shaved Poppy's head in her sleep and done like voodoo witchcraft with her hair.
Totally.
Like I literally, if some girl was like, I've gone on vacation with your boyfriend every summer for over 10 years and they have all this shared history. I mean, like, my fiance has like a lot of friends who are girls, and something that I really had to overcome was like that there's a shared history that he has with who I perceive as other girls, and he just perceives them like as his friends. But like, that's a mind fuck. Like, you have to be a very confident woman. And like, and the thing about like Alex and Poppy is like, you know,
it's not platonic.
It's not platonic. Yeah. And Sarah's like, I have a gut feeling that either something has happened or will happen. And I'm telling you, let this be a PSA to all the listeners. If a guy you're dating has a friend who's a girl and he's like, don't worry about her. If he tells you that she's not the one to worry about, she is the one to worry about. And you should trust your gut.
Totally. I think that is like a really good point about just like, it's not even that they didn't like they didn't physically cheat or whatever, but it's like when Sarah's like observing them together, she's like, yeah, this isn't good. So I think like that's fair. Like, yeah, like trust the person you're with if there really is no smoke.
Totally.
But like they go on like couples dates, like double dates and stuff like that, and she sees them together and she's like, this isn't it. Like, you shouldn't be traveling alone with her. Like, that is so legitimate.
It's so fine. It's like, it's called a boundary. And then Poppy's like, ooh, she hates me. And I'm like, Girlina, like, are you fucking crazy? Like, it's like, this is how it goes, Poppy. People grow up and then they get married and date other people. And then you're not their number one priority anymore. And like, if you were normal, you would understand that. But you're secretly in love with Alex and won't admit it to yourself. So poor Sarah Torval is caught in the crosshairs.
Totally. And it sucks for that person when you're like the second best, but you end up dating them for like a long time. And then you're like, oh, I kind of wasted my time with this person.
Yes.
Yeah, so at this point, so like after college and after, I guess she drops out of college, she goes and gets his master's. She's blogging, she becomes an influencer, I guess, and then she gets this journalism job and she's living in New York. This is 6 summers ago now. They are planning a trip to Vail. And this is when Sarah's like, yeah, like I actually don't think that you guys should do this. But then... which is like so fair. But then because of Poppy's job, they get offered a free place to go. So they just like go. They are talking about how they felt lonely before they met each other, which is like, I feel like that is like what you want in your like soulmate. Yeah. In your partner. And then they say, I love you. But I guess they see it as platonic, but it just doesn't, it obviously to us, it just doesn't read platonic in any sense of the word.
No. And then she like whines because she sprains her ankle and she's like, what are you going to do? And he's like, oh, I'm going to carry you down the mountain. And I'm like, I'm so sure he's so big and muscular and she's so tiny and he just scoops her up and carries her down the mountain. It's really, I'm making it sound like I really hated this whole book. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. But like part of the fun with these books is like snarking on them. Like I have to, you know? Totally.
I rip on books and then on Goodreads, I'll be like 5 stars.
Yeah. You're like, it was amazing. It's how I feel about like movies too. Like sometimes I'll see a bad movie and be like, that was the most incredible movie I've ever seen in my life. And I'll watch it 50 times over.
Yeah, totally. There's just something about it that's it's so easy to digest these books. and some of them you're cringing and sometimes you're laughing out loud or crying or whatever, and then picking them apart is the best part. Like,
it's the best. And then other times you're like, whoa, I wasn't into this and now I'm like extremely turned on by this book. Like, when the fuck did that happen? Where am I?
Where am I? My God. Okay. We're in present day. Things keep getting worse at their hotel. Alex is like, I feel like it's just time that we like ditch the scene and like get a hotel since we're like 30 years old and stuff like that. She's like, oh, it's going to be expensive, because he still doesn't know that she's footing the bill. It's not the magazine or website or whatever. They kind of get into an argument because Poppy's like, I just want things to go back to where they used to be. And he's like, that's not possible. And I think she thinks it's because they had that falling out in Croatia, which we don't know what it is.
Mysterious.
And I'm like, at this point, dying to know what the Croatia incident is.
I literally, they really set us up to be like, someone killed someone in Croatia and nothing was ever the same after that. And then we get there and I'm like, okay.
They made out.
They made out and it was like a little weird after. And they're like, we can't talk for 2 years. I'm like, okay, let's not be dramatic.
It's so bad. It's so bad. Yeah, so I guess she's like, I want it to go back to pre-Croatia days. He's like, it's never gonna go back to that, which is the adult thing to admit, I think. Mm-hmm. And they're just like getting heated, and she like runs out on the balcony. It starts raining, like I guess tropical storm or desert storm or whatever. And finally Poppy like admits that she has feelings for him, and they kiss. She says, I've always wanted you.
Fantastic. Awesome.
My God. We get a flashback interrupting this makeout scene about,
Rude.
Yeah, like you mentioned before, where they're supposed to go to Europe. I think it was Sweden and Norway. And Poppy can't go because she's super sick. So Alex takes like his first flight, which was like had a layover in New York, and stops and takes care of her. And she's like, why would you ever do this for me? And it's like, because at this point we've been friends for like 8 years or whatever, like best friends. I think actually it's another time that she realizes she's in love with him, but like she is like, I need to travel and be spontaneous and I need excitement in my life. And he really wants marriage and kids and a home in one place. Yeah. And we're like oil and vinegar, so we could never like date.
And she's like, I'm so delirious from my fever. I just can't. And then he's like, I'm just going to like hold you until you fall asleep. And it's
yeah,
like, there's
do you
something
like that?
I was going to say there's something when I'm sick, I feel like disgusting. So like,
yes,
I would never,
yeah.
like I would never want Jake to like hold me when I'm sick, but I'm like very into like when a guy like takes care of me and like brings me like food and kind of like loves on me in that way. Cause like acts of service are hot.
Totally. I like the taking care when you're like ill or whatever, but like, yeah, when she was like, basically her main symptom was a fever, I was like, I'm not into like the cuddle sesh that
I'm like, you're about to get so fucking sick, Alex. Like, it's like, get out of my space. Like,
yeah,
give me the soup and then run.
No, post-COVID, I'm literally like, are you masked out? Like, are you? Yeah. Why are you in the apartment? Like,
save yourself.
No, literally, so bad. I was also thinking, like, do you think at this point, if you're Poppy or Alex, you're like, okay, I don't like cuddle with my other friends. Should we like look into this a little bit? Or
I would think so. Like, because it was a charged cuddle.
Yeah.
Like everything they do is charged. It's like we hugged and it was charged, and it was like it was like a hug that was a little too long. And it's like, you guys, like, shit or get off the pot.
Totally. But they do. We get back
eventually
to Palm Springs. They have sex. What did you think of like the sex scenes and like the spice of this novel?
I liked it. Yeah. I liked the spice. I think it's hard because they both gave me the ick. So like, I think if I liked them, I think if I liked them more as characters, I would have been more into it. Like, I think they were like very spicily written and I enjoyed it. And you know, like rain sex on a balcony, like sure, like great, you know, but yeah. How'd you feel?
Yeah, I thought that I agree that it was like well written. I don't think it was like enough because I think don't they only have sex this one time?
I think this is the only time we really get the whole like act of it. And then there's more where it's like he started doing this and then it like cuts to them going to the wedding, or like, you know, it like kind of cuts away.
Yeah. And That's disappointing, I think.
I think so. I think so too. I think so too. Especially if you're coming off of Akamath when, Rhys ends like splay on the table and be my feast. And you're like, oh.
No, you're like giggling, you're like kicking your feet. And then this, like, I thought it was good, but it was just like too short and like too little, I guess.
Totally.
They end up relocating to a new hotel. All is well. They're like figuring it out, but it's still a little bit awkward. And then they flash back to a time. It's really just that they're in Tuscany and they're both like on this double date of a trip where Trey, which is her boyfriend at the time, and Sarah is there. And she thinks she's pregnant, so she gets tested and it's negative, and he's helping her through that. And so just showing that, like, they have more, like, depth to their relationship, I would say.
Yeah.
And then we get to the wedding part of Palm Springs, and they show up to David's bachelor party, and they're holding hands, and no one's surprised. Like, everyone's like, oh, yeah, like.
They're like, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Can I read you this quote? I think this is my favorite quote of the book.
Please.
I thought you didn't like holding hands, I say. This is Poppy. And you said you did, he says. So what? I just get whatever I want now, I tease. His smile flickers back into place, calm and restrained. Yes, Poppy, he says. You get whatever you want now. Is that a problem? What if I want you to have what you want? He arches an eyebrow. Are you just saying that because you know what I'm going to say and you want to make fun of me for it? No, I say. Why? What are you going to say? Our hands go still between us. I have what I want, Poppy.
So sweet.
It's really sweet. Very, very cute. Yeah, I liked those little moments.
Me too.
It's heating up because she finds out that he bought a ring for Sarah and was like going to propose to her. And Poppy's like, did you break up with Sarah because of me? And she thinks it's because he was like, because she was sucking away all of his time and support and stuff like that. But he's like, of course. But the miscommunication is that it's like, of course, because I'm in love with you.
Mm-hmm.
They do the wedding and they go to leave. And this is where like shit hits the fan, where Poppy finally admits to Alex that the magazine isn't paying for the trip. And they start talking about how it's not clear with what she wants in her life. And she's like, I wanted to go on the trip to like figure out if my life has meaning and like why I've been so depressed. And he's like, okay, so like, am I just this like vacation fling basically? Because I'm potentially like could move to New York and get a teaching job there. But if I uproot my life, like you better be like super serious about this. And like she is, but like I guess she can't verbalize it. So then they like have to catch their flights and like go home.
This scene was rough. The thought of, because she like talked earlier in the book about how like she loves airports because it feels like a place where people connect and where they meet each other after a trip or they're like going somewhere and it's this like happy, optimistic place for her. And then she's like, I felt so lonely. I've never felt more lonely in an airport. And I was like, oh, just crying in an airport after fighting with your friend and it's all rushed because he has to catch his flight and like he's not going to have service. You can't talk to him. Like, oh, brutal.
Totally. I've never like had a fight like this in an airport and then had to catch a flight, but like I have had like a rushed goodbye or like whatever. And it's so like the anxiety about that is just so fucking brutal.
It's so emotional.
And then we finally get the Croatia scene that the book has like hyped up forever. And really it's just that they're in Croatia and they get super sloppy drunk and Poppy goes to Alex's room and they end up making out. And then Poppy's like, I think undoing his pants. And then he's like, just wait, like stop. Like we shouldn't do this. And she takes it as that he doesn't like her. He's not interested in having sex with her. But he's like, no, I'm obsessed with you. I don't want our first time to be like a sloppy drunk hookup.
Respectful king,
but just no...
Their communication for being best friends is in the garbage can. Like it's like, for the love of Pete.
What did they talk about on the plane ride home from Croatia?
That's so true. They were probably like, oh, I got an extra thing of peanuts. Do you want some? Oh, okay. Like it was probably just really tense. and like awkward, quiet.
So yeah, they've parted ways. They're back at home, and Poppy's like, no, this isn't what I want to do. Alex is like the guy for me. I want to quit my job. I want to restart my blog. I'm going to go home to like ground myself. And she goes to high school, the high school that Alex and Sarah work at. She bumps into Sarah because she can't find Alex, and they make up, which I thought was nice because I was feeling bad for our girl. And like,
I know.
And she's like, okay, like, go get him. I know that you guys are like soulmates. So he's like across the street at the bar, and she goes into the bar and she does the Meg Ryan.
I loved the monologue. I thought it was
the big
so
monologue.
good.
It's so good. I pulled one quote from there. I've always felt like once someone sees me deep down, that's it. There's something ugly in there or unlovable, and you're the only person who's ever made me feel like I'm okay. That I think is so relatable. Like,
I know,
really
it really got me.
Yeah, I actually like think I kind of got misty at this point.
I know. I like as an actor was like, oh my God, I want to do this monologue. Like, let me at it because it's so good. It's so well written. And yeah, I think it's so relatable. I think it's something a lot of people have experienced. And I think when you find the right person, you're like, oh, I can actually fully be like witnessed by this person and they're not going to run. And that's really beautiful.
It's so powerful and so like rare. I feel like that. It really just shows how well they work together. And then he's like, hey, yeah, but like, yes, but like on paper we like don't really make sense. And then she like storms out of the car, and I was like, how are they gonna like, get back together at this point?
I know.
I like looked on my Kindle, it was like 97% or whatever, or like what's gonna happen? But he really just like leaves the bar and like catches up on her, and he's like, just because we don't make sense on paper like doesn't mean I don't want to be with you. And we get an epilogue that they are living together in New York. She writes a column now that is called People You Meet in New York. He's teaching, and they planned the missed, I guess, Norway and Sweden. Whatever I said. Did I say Sweden and Norway?
I think you did.
Yeah,
okay. You did. Yeah.
They're going to do that, but then they're going to also spend time in Linfield, so it's like best of both worlds.
I really liked how in the end, like she made that speech to Alex, and it tied back to part of why she loved travel was sort of that things were temporary, and she could sort of be this like cooler version of herself and she could keep it surface with the people she met and only give them these small doses of her. And so that was where her confidence came from on vacation. And realizing that with Alex, she actually let him see all of her. And then how in the end her new column is more about people, because even though she likes traveling, she actually realized that people were the
connection was
the
best part.
Exactly. And I thought her arc as a character was really interesting and cool.
And I also think that the author did a really good job of it being like the characters really saw it black and white. You either have to be like a travel, like never sleep at your own home type of person, or a person that's like stuck in their hometown. And it's like we figured out a way that it works for them to get, you know, the best of both worlds.
Yes. And that she realized that like, I do think this is an interesting conversation that I think a lot of people, especially in your like early 30s, probably have with your friends, or you like consider. Like I've thought about like, I'm the friend who like left the Midwest to go to LA and like pursue these big dreams. And then I have friends who like stayed in the suburbs of Chicago and are like raising kids. And like I think it's like really beautiful when you can get to a point with your friends where you're like, our dreams don't look the same, but we're just so happy for each other that we're both doing it in the way that we want to. And I think it's really beautiful and amazing that Poppy and Alex's dreams were able to converge and they could work it out. But like, yeah, there's also just something to be said for like friendships in your 30s when you're like, oh, you want something different than me, but that doesn't mean like one thing is better or worse than the other. Yeah.
Totally. I feel like that I thought that so much in my 20s, like, oh, that could never be me or whatever, for like, people that got married at like 21 or whatever, and then like, settled down and like that's what their life looks like. But I don't feel like that at all. And I I feel like I went on a similar journey as Poppy did with that, for sure. Any other things you want to say about the book before we get into our roundtable discussion?
No, I think I'm ready to dive in.
Okay. So we're going to get into our internet investigation. This is our cursory peruse of the internet of things you need to know. The things I found, there was an alternative title released in different countries, and it's You and Me on Vacation. Do you like that better than People We Meet on Vacation?
I like People We Meet on Vacation better. What about you?
Yeah, me too. Because I guess like the through line that we like didn't really talk about in the plot summary is just like the people that she meets on vacation like impact her in different or
Right.
impact them both on different ways, and they learn different lessons from like the people that they met. Yeah, I think that one's definitely People We Meet on Vacation is catchier. And then East and West Linfield are fictional, like I'm assuming it's one town and there's like two parts, but like they're fictional, a fictional
That's
place.
so interesting.
Yeah, it's so random. I think it's supposed to be set in a certain state, but it is, and all the other places are obviously real, but there's no city of Linfield.
That's interesting because I think Emily Henry, I believe, is from Ohio.
Yeah.
And I think Linfield is supposed to be in Ohio, but I'm like, why make it up?
Yes, I think you're right. I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Towards the end of the book, by the way, like she talks about how she like visits her parents in Ohio when she goes to like get Alex to get her man. And I just love the way she writes a Midwestern summer because it is such a specific feeling as someone who grew up there, and it's so palpable on the page. And I just like I love all this Midwestern and Canadian love that she puts in her books.
I know.
In this one.
Totally. Like this style of book, I put this in my grapes and grumbles, but like sometimes there's too much detail. Like I don't care about, the couple that helped them with their like flat tire in Palm Springs or whatever.
Totally.
Like sometimes I'm like, okay, like let's move on. But then there is a lot of detail in the setting, and that actually like is really good. It paints a really good picture.
Totally.
Okay, our Wonder Whys. These are unanswered questions to the listeners. Yeah, basically I'm just like, this book is When Harry Met Sally. Like, do we care? At some point I didn't, but like, I don't know. It's just like a modern retelling of that. I guess it's like if you don't want that story to be retold, just like don't read this book, I guess.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, it is so like interesting with like I just wrote a rom-com and it's like I feel like all art is like informed by other art. And so it's like, when does drawing inspiration become like almost a ripoff? And I feel like that is that's just such a subjective line. So yeah, it's like if you're into When Harry Met Sally, like friends to lovers type of story, you'll probably love this book. But if you're like so hell bent on When Harry Met Sally being a perfect classic that should never be touched, then you might be like triggered by this book.
Totally.
You know?
I think like though you're totally right. And I don't think it needs to be untouched. I think it can have many, retellings of it. I think the part that I don't love is that you could not that this would be even considered fanfic, but like I think just like more explicit, because like when you actually read the back of ACOTAR, which I didn't do until this podcast, it actually says this is not a modern retelling, but this is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast. And I think I would have wanted that in like the description. I
or
think.
maybe like an opening statement about how much she loves When Harry Met Sally, as opposed to putting it at the end of the book when she's like, I didn't even realize I did it.
Exactly. Totally. Yeah. Okay, so apparently, and I don't know how to say this word. I think it's ennui.
Ennui. Yeah.
Ennui. Yeah. Okay. But basically, millennial ennui is when you feel really lost in your 30s, and you might be feeling bored with your job, and like it's kind of like I feel like I get it a lot where it's like I should just like pack up my life and like move to like I don't know, Southeast Asia, and you'll just never hear from me again.
Yes.
But do you ever have this feeling?
Absolutely. I had it really, really badly last summer because I had actually like left my corporate job to do freelance stuff, but freelance stuff wasn't like rolling in the way I thought it would or I hoped it would. and I was like extremely broke, and it was summer. So like silly goose season, where like I feel like summer is a season where like everyone's like, I mentioned it earlier, like going on trips or like just like out with their friends in cute outfits, like out to dinner all the time. And I was like, I don't feel like I have anyone I can hang out with. And like I felt super lonely, and I was just like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Like I was just constantly in a place of existential crisis.
Yeah, I get that. I totally get that. I feel
Yeah.
like with the like biological clock, even if you
Mhm.
don't want kids, you're just so ingrained to think on that type of timeline.
Yes.
And then the pressures that millennials face that older generations didn't, with like the cost of living and like housing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's so much easier to fall into this ennui. What did I say?
Ennui, yeah.
Ennui,
And we're being
yeah.
bullied by Gen Z constantly for like being upset about
For wearing
what we
low
have,
socks.
for wearing like low socks and like how we do our hair, and it's just like too fucking much. And I'm like, for a generation that's like full of like love and light and like mental health awareness, like they really are fucked up to us. Like enough.
And then people are like, who cares? Like, don't take it seriously. I was like, when you're constantly told that everything you do is like
It's stupid and embarrassing.
yeah, you're gonna feel something.
I know. That's probably how like my mom felt back in the day.
Yeah, no, that's
Shout
so
out to our
fair.
parents. Sorry. Wait, can I name one wonder why that I had?
Yes, please, please.
There was a moment in the book where Poppy mentioned she only showers 3 times a week, and Alex showers multiple times a day.
I missed that.
And I literally was like, you're a foul person. That is
Yeah.
so fucking disgusting. And sometimes when I'm reading a romantic novel and I find the like lead, like the lady lead, to be annoying, I take it as like a personal slight where I'm like, but why doesn't the guy have a crush on me?
Yeah.
And it's like, Hannah, because none of this is real. But you know, like when you like, I feel like everyone probably at one point had a girl in their grade at any age where like every guy had a crush on them, and you're like, respectfully, I don't see it. Like I don't understand. We've all experienced that where you're like, no.
Yeah.
If I'm woman enough to admit when someone is hotter and cooler than me, I don't
Yeah.
see it with her. Okay.
Yes.
With Poppy, I was just like, how the fuck is Alex in love with a woman who only showers 3 times a week? That is so nasty.
It is so gross. And there's such a trend, not a moment. It's not really happening right now, but of like people admitting their like disgusting personal hygiene
When people are like,
habits.
I don't wash my feet, I just let the water like run down. I'm like, you need to get between your toes. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Literally, I go through soap bars so fucking quickly because
Come
I'm just like
on.
not that girl at all. I'm like trying to think of reasons why one would want to only shower 3 times a week.
She just like doesn't like it.
And I
Poppy
like,
just,
can't,
like,
I know, I
doesn't
like
like it.
can't, unless you have like a really like, I know sometimes showering and stuff can be tough for people with certain mental health,
Maybe, or
like
like
illnesses or something like that.
skin
but it's,
condition.
like, or eczema. That
Yeah.
could be one. That could
Yeah.
be one. But like, I just don't see
Poppy
it.
didn't mention any of those things, so I just think
So she's just a fucking dirty bitch.
she's a dirty little pick me girl. And like then you
Totally.
think about Palm Springs and like shit, like it was
Oh,
disgusting there
God.
and sweaty, and I'm like, did you even shower before the trip? Like, you know, she's the kind of person who like gets off a plane and doesn't even consider like, oh, I should probably take a shower before, or like I should probably wash my shit, like even the stuff I didn't wear after I put it in my suitcase.
Totally. Now that you're saying this, I do like, I'm getting flashbacks to when Alex is like, oh, do you want the shower first? And she's like, no, I'm just gonna hop in the bed. Like, you go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fucking gnar. Like, so gnarly. Okay, out of all the places they went to, Vancouver Island, New Orleans, Palm Springs, Vail, Croatia, Sweden, Norway, Nashville, Tuscany, Sanibel Island, and you don't have to say Vancouver Island, where would you most want to go?
I mean, I do genuinely want to go to like all the ones I haven't been to, but
Yes,
Tuscany.
yes.
I'm going to Tuscany
yes.
on my honeymoon. I've never been. Have you?
No, that's amazing. I was gonna pick Tuscany too. There's just something about like ever since I watched Under the Tuscan Sun.
Babe, same. It changes you. It changes your brain chemistry. You're like, I have to be Diane Lane.
Totally. Yeah. And I've been to, out of these, actually, I've only been to like Vancouver Island and Nashville. I've never been to New Orleans, Palm Springs,
Ooh.
Vail, Croatia, Sweden, Norway, or Sanibel Island.
Wow.
I've been to New York where they live, but
yeah. I've been to New Orleans, Palm Springs, and Nashville, and that's it.
Yeah.
So pretty much anywhere you would go for like a bachelorette party. Those are the ones I've been
It's like we've been on a few bachelorette parties.
Yeah.
Literally. Okay. Our gripes and grumbles. These are nitpicky problems we have with the book. Oh yeah, this is my first gripe and grumble. Alex doesn't realize ever that this is not a trip for her magazine where she's taking no pictures. She's not writing anything down. Like, she doesn't try to pretend after like the first day.
It's so true.
And she just like never, like, she tries to go to the museum, but she, like, they don't do anything else, like go out for dinner or like try to sightsee and stuff like that. And I'm like, how did he not realize that
it was a ruse?
Yeah.
That's a really good point. I also found Alex's like sad puppy face that talks about the entire book. That was an ick too, that we didn't talk about.
No, but like, what was that?
Like, I picture him like turning and being like, like, ah! Again, sorry, not a visual medium, but like the way she writes the way she writes the face, like describes it. I'm like, it's so weird. And then she like tries to do it too, and she'll be like, Alex, you can't use that against me, stop doing the face. And I'm like, ick.
She's like, I'm powerless against that puppy face. Like no, literally, she like tries to put it in his Tinder profile at one point. Like, she's like, get this picture in there in the roundup. Like,
do put puppy face in there. I'm like, please, for the love of God, don't. She's trying to sabotage him. That's what she's trying to do.
Literally. Okay, I feel like we've talked about most of these. So my last gripe and grumble, if you don't have any more, because
that was my biggest one.
We've ripped apart. He gets a vasectomy after her pregnancy scare. That is so extreme.
It's really hardcore. He's like, I don't know, it just really freaked me out, so I wanted to take care of business.
No, literally. And I know they're reversible, but it's still like a surgery. And like, I don't know, or maybe I should want men to take more accountability in contraceptive measures or whatever, but like, it was just so fucking weird. I don't know.
It was hardcore. It was
super, super hardcore.
And like, a lot of the book ends up being like about how Alex is like really fucked up by his mom's passing. And like, as someone who lost my mom, I'm not trying to minimize that at all. I am saying like the tie-in of like his mom passed away in labor and then Poppy got pregnant and then it freaked me out, so he got a vasectomy. I don't know if that would really happen.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. Or maybe I'm being too laissez-faire about just like using condoms and birth control, or like, I don't know. I guess if your partner doesn't want to be on the pill or whatever, like, I
mean, Poppy is not the kind of girl who would take her pill on time. That's for fucking sure.
Yeah, so maybe he's like, I actually need this.
And like, or she would like make an IUD appointment, or she wouldn't even know how to make an IUD appointment. She would be like, I don't know how to call my doctor. Like, what's an IUD? Like, she really needs help adulting, like in a hardcore way. So he was probably like, I'll just take matters into my own hands.
Literally. Okay. Sequel scoop. This is our tea on any upcoming sequels, seasons, and the general reception. It won Best 2021 Romance Book on Goodreads.
Cute.
And as of 2022, about a year after its release, Emily Henry announced that there's going to be a film adaptation by Sony's 3,000 Pictures from a screenplay by Yulin Kwang, with Brett Haley directing and Temple Hill producing. So she allegedly has read this screenplay and was like, I'm obsessed with it.
That's awesome.
I did so much research. I cannot find any updates. I don't know if that's normal. Maybe you would know better than I do. But like, and obviously there was the strike, so they probably can make moves on it. But there's like literally no updates on any of that since 2022.
Shit takes forever to get made, and it's really annoying. Like, I feel like you'll get something announced and then they still have to like attach talent, and then like find the locations and the budget and like all that stuff. So it is possible that's just taking a really long time to get it made. But this is something that I think, like, I love Emily and Henry books because I do feel like they read very cinematically. And I think I've read this and Book Lovers so far, and I really think they lend themselves so well to movie adaptation. So I'm really excited to see it.
Totally. And I think she has 3 books out, and I think that all 3 books have been picked up for
That's exciting.
Film adaptations, which is really exciting. And then especially this one, because I love travel in film.
It's so fun to watch.
And fans, like I teased at the top of the episode, fans are suggesting Haley Lou Richardson from White Lotus as Poppy. I don't know if it's because of her character in White Lotus.
Maybe, but it's still really good.
It's really good, hey?
Yeah. I
really
saw
good.
that too, and I was like, damn, that's really good casting.
Yeah, and apparently I think she was on a red carpet or something, and someone was like, oh, people are like casting you as Poppy in the new Emily Henry book movie film. And she's like, oh, I would totally do that. She's like, no one's like approached me or anything like that, but if it came up, I would totally do it.
As long as I get to audition for her friend Rachel, who's like obsessed with like Soul Cycle, then I'm here for it.
You literally should.
Come on, like I gotta call my agent and be like, babe, like what do we have to do? Get me in.
Yeah, and then the like nice Meryl Streep, like Devil Wears Prada.
Swapna. Oh my gosh, who's gonna play Swapna?
Yeah,
someone like really like hot and cool.
Yeah.
Who's that woman from Sex and the City? Or from And Just Like That?
Oh, Seema?
Yes, I could see her playing Swapna.
Yes.
Just like a fabulous hot lady of a certain age. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know the actress's name, but like her character's name is Seema.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 really quick listener questions and then we can wrap up. At Anne Shoeboxes says, preference for back and forth timelines or straight through?
I liked the back and forth because I thought it was fun to kind of ramp up to the Croatia incident, which we'll get to in a second. Like I like how it drove sort of suspense in that way. And it allowed us to have sort of a 360-degree view of these people, like who these people were and who they are, and really understand the shared history they had. I would say my con is just that it can be hard to follow. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, normally I'm like a straight through girly, except for in a book like this, you like would have to do it with these time jumps. But I'm not ever like seeking out a back and forth timeline.
No.
Book. I feel like the only one that I've read recently, I would even say, is like Outlander. And that's like part of it's back and forth. It's not like every chapter like this one was.
Yeah. I'm not even super into like switching perspectives except for like Gone Girl, like a book where it like really serves a purpose. But in general, I like just like knowing who the narrator is and then just like going straight through.
Totally. Or like when it's like, okay, the 2 chapters at the end or whatever, or in the other person's POV or whatever. Yeah. I liked a book I recently read. I forgot the name, but the author released 2 bonus chapters, and it was just 2 chapters in the book that were really like character heavy with the 2 main characters.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was like the reversed POV, and I liked that. It was like when they first met, and then when they like maybe first had sex or like first said I love you or something like that.
That's cool.
Okay, at Alyssa Mala says, did you feel the incident was overhyped for what actually happened?
1,000,000%.
Like 1,000,000,000,000%. Like, what was it? Like, it literally was nothing. I feel like, I don't know, not that I've like made out with a lot of friends, but like, I feel like it's like you make out with a friend and you're just like, ugh, what was that? Anyways, like...
Or you like have maybe like an awkward conversation the next day where you're like, okay, well, you were kind of weird about it and I'm like kind of embarrassed and mad at you. And then they're like, okay, well, like, sorry. And then you're like, okay, it's fine. Like, whatever. And then you just move on.
Seriously.
Like if you're like a dum-dum in your 20s and you're just like drunk and horned up, like that's probably how the conversation would go. It wouldn't be deep. It wouldn't be long, but it would just be an acknowledgement of like, that was kind of embarrassing. Well, okay.
Yeah. Like, oh, we were super drunk.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Oh my God. I mean, there's no one like a 20-something to use the I was so drunk excuse to justify their unhinged or like ill thought out behavior.
Yeah, because, okay, so if they started college at 18 and this is 12 years later, they would be 30. And so this would have been, they were 28.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used that excuse longer than I should have, so I can't knock them.
No, literally. Same.
I'm still like, I'm just a 22-year-old girl. And I'm like, no, Hannah, you are 32.
No, literally same. I'm like, I would never do that. Like, I will probably do that in the future. Like,
Yeah.
like,
I'll probably do it when I'm 40.
yeah, like, whatever. Yeah, no, it was totally overhyped. Is there a different scenario that would have made it better?
I think if the incident maybe had something to do with like not actually them hooking up, but maybe like a fight where it was like Poppy got drunk and messy and like yelled at Sarah or said something really nasty about Sarah, that like she just seemed kind of like jealous and possessive in a way that Alex saw as just like too much drama and like couldn't bounce back from.
That makes so much more sense.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. And it's not that he still wasn't in love with her the whole time, but just that he's just like, hey, I'm trying to grow up. I'm trying to achieve my dream of getting married and having kids with this person. And you just created a lot of drama tonight when you were wasted on this trip with us. And like, I can't stay in touch with you. That would make
totally
sense.
Totally. Or like, I'm with Sarah, like maybe they like almost kissed or something, and then he was like, oh my god, no, snap out
I'm
of
about
it.
to ruin my life.
Yeah, I'm with Sarah, like we can't do this, I think we need some time apart. And then it just like grew into 2 years.
Totally.
Yeah, it makes more sense. But they were like both single at the time and drunk, and yeah.
So literally the most innocent incident of all time.
Yeah, and if she felt so seen by him, it would be weird to jump to the like conclusion that he didn't want to have sex with her.
Totally.
Because he like didn't find her attractive or whatever. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Final thing I'm going to say about this book. Then I can close it up for good. I like that. I think a lot of the books I've been reading are like where the main characters have clean slates, like no past really relationships, and then they meet their like quote unquote soulmate or whatever. And I just feel like this is just, and more, it's a contemporary novel, and we haven't really covered that too much on this podcast yet, but like I think it just shows a realistic depiction of like you dating a bunch of people like a normal 20 or 30-year-old, and then just that like you can find love even if you've had past partners, or like you could be in a relationship with a partner and know that it's not the one, but for other reasons you're like kind of with them, and like that's okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of like clumsiness in finding your person, especially in your 20s and early 30s, and I think that like she did a really good job of sort of like illustrating that in all of Poppy's and Alex's blunders.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Any final thoughts from you?
Not really. I just really enjoyed diving into this book with you, and fun. I'm so happy we got to talk about it. Again, this has just felt like a vacation.
I know. People, you could almost say we're people you met on a vacation.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. And honestly, it did really like awaken my wanderlust, even though in the end they just like end up like in New York and Linfield. I'm like, okay, but like when am I going on a trip? Like I want to travel.
Seriously. I know. I felt the same way. Oh my God. And I was like, when should I become a travel journalist?
Yes. Like this is our next era.
Yeah, totally. Okay, Hannah, where can the listeners find you, and anything else you want to plug?
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for having me, Torry. This was so fun.
Thank you.
Y'all can follow me at Hannah A. Brown on Instagram and Twitter, which I'm like never on. And then Hannah A. Brown 0 on TikTok. And then check out my podcast, You Know You Love Us, wherever you get your pods.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
And that's the story of people we meet on vacation. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to Hannah for joining me on today's show. And thanks to those who submitted questions via our Instagram at Ready to Be Romanced. If you haven't already, subscribing and leaving a rating and review to the pod helps so much. We are a new pod, even though I do host another show, Ready to Be Petty, a pop culture, celebrity gossip, and reality TV podcast. But because we are new, it's super helpful if you can A, let me know that I'm on track and you are liking these episodes, or if there's anything that I could change, and then B, showing other people that there our listeners and that people find value in the show really helps new people click play. You can always suggest a book by contacting me on socials at Ready to Be Romance, but you can also leave a voicemail or submit a book via our Google form via the links in the episode show notes. Our next episode is Twilight. Until then, happy reading. For Ready to Be Romance, I'm Torry. Goodbye.